Now, we will now look at the process of photosynthesis. As the name implies, photo means something to do with light. Synthesis means making. So in this process, literally light energy is used to manufacture a chemical compound in which that energy is stored as potential energy, and that energy is later on used by different processes of the cell which release that energy. And previously we did respiration, so you have a little bit of understanding what the process of respiration entails and how complicated it was and how many steps it had. In this particular process, keep in mind, before photosynthesis actually evolved, the Earth's atmosphere had very little free oxygen. So photosynthesis is an evolutionary process in which over the time over the period of time and evolution, processes evolved that released energy, that released oxygen. And once oxygen was present in a abundance, then the more favorable kind of organisms that we are more familiar with evolved during this process. So a really old process which was there for a long time helped to where the life on Earth is today. So let's look at sunlight. As I just mentioned earlier, that sunlight has a tremendous amount of energy stored in it. Now, light that appears to us is usually in two forms. If you see an object that has a particular color, for example, red or pink or green or purple, then that is the color that is reflected by that object. So everything else is absorbed by that organism. So for example, if leaves appear to be green, it's because they absorb all the other wavelengths of light and reflect green. So now that we talk about wavelength, what does the wavelength mean? Wavelength is a frequency that light travels with. So it keeps on going from a varied frequency. You can see over here 430 to 700 nanometers. And the spectrum of color that you observe over here ranges at different energy level. So that's one form of light. So if you see an object that appears to be white, it's probably because it has reflected all the colors. If an object appears to be black, it's because it has absorbed all the different wavelengths. So that is the first property of light, that it travels in waves. The second property of light is associated with the word photon, which has to do with particles or packets. What this means is the light travels in form of packets. So there's a packet that is going round and round and also moving up and down. So these are the two ways that light energy can be can move from sun to the earth. So when we see the spectrum of color and a rainbow, always think of it as different wavelengths of that are being generated or radiating from the sun. Now, this image is my favorite in this book, is because of all the beautiful colors that you see during the fall season. Now, during fall season, what happens is leaves have all kinds of pigments within its cells. Now, due to the shorter duration of wavelength and shorter duration of sunlight, some of the green pigment starts deteriorating or break down. Now, when that breaks down, some of the other color pigments that are present in the leaves start to be more visible, and that is why the leaves get this color of rust and yellow and fiery orange and so forth. So those are all the different pigments that are present along with the green pigment. But the green pigment during the fall season is less in number because it starts breaking down. The major photosynthetic pigment are the green pigment, and the green pigment is because of the two important chlorophyll molecules which is chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. So these are the two most important pigments, and there are two of them because they absorb different wavelengths of light. So coming back to the previous slide, if you notice over here, the green is in this wide region. So if you have two different pigments, it helps absorb more of the light. Besides these two, there are other pigments, which are the carotenoids, which give you that orange color, and phycobilins, which also gives you purple and red pigments. So these are just give you a sense of other pigments that are present in the cell. Now keep in mind, where are these pigments present, and can you remember which organelle has these pigments? If you got this word right, chloroplast, then that's where this is going to be present. Okay. Now first I'm going to give you an overview of photosynthesis, and then we will go and look at both steps of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is actually a very complicated process. So it has two parts. The first part is called as the light dependent reaction, which means that it should take place during the daylight hours. The light independent reaction means it does not need to be present, and it can take place. It's independent of light. So theoretically it seems like it could be present in dark or night, but it's not really true. It can even go on with the day. All it means is it doesn't need sunlight to work with it, and you will see what we're going to talk about in the coming slides. So the first step, which is the light dependent reaction, has to take place only during the daylight hours. Now during the daylight hours, this first part over here is what's going to happen. Light energy is going to fall on the pigments, and a lot of electrons will be moving around. A lot of different things are being given out, and if you notice over here, there are the two important things that you see arrows pointing to, and you can see that ATP is one of them, and the other one is this product NADPH. We did something similar in the previous chapter, which was called as NADH. NADPH is also another electron carrier. I'm not going to go into a big name of this because I don't expect you to remember that. So just if you can remember that in the light dependent reaction, these two molecules are generated that then help the dark reaction. So the dark reaction is the one on the bottom, and this is the light reaction, which is the one on the top. So the light reaction again is the light dependent reaction, and this is called as the light independent reaction. Notice over here what's being released. That you release oxygen, but what is essential? Besides light, the important factor is water should be present, and definitely you should have the green pigments, which will help with this process of phosphorylation. And the products ATP and NADPH are going to enter in this cycle. And notice what's showing over here. You need to input carbon dioxide. So keeping all these things that are being released and what's being taken in, you can see the reaction of photosynthesis. This is the sugar molecule, which is that structure is shown on this reaction. C6H12O6 is glucose. So for this class, I expect you to know this reaction. 6 water molecule, again this part, and 6 carbon dioxide molecules, this part, will give us 1 molecule of glucose, and notice that there are oxygen comes out as a waste. So this is actually the reaction which we did previously, which was respiration. This is the opposite of the reaction we did previously.